One of the biggest challenges of learning how to draw, or really learning any skill in general, is fear. The fear of failure, the fear of wasting time, the fear of not being predisposed or uniquely blessed with talent. It goes on. Here, I'm going to talk about one particular fear that I struggled with a great deal, and something against which I still wage an ongoing battle: the fear of a blank page. More specifically, I'm going to explain how I learned to deal with it. The fear of a blank page is at its very core a manifestation of the fear of failure. We sit down to draw, but that pristine, unmarred, perfect page stares up at us like a gawking crowd, waiting for us to mess up. The pressure is on. We start to feel this sense that the first mark we will make or break our drawing. If we screw it up, there's no way the drawing will recover. But if we make the right mark, by some fluke or miracle, the fear doesn't abate. It just transfers over to the next stroke, like the drawing is an obstacle course and every new mark is an opportunity to lose the game. Obviously, that's not how it works, but our emotions aren't exactly subject to logic. I took up drawing as a frequent hobby from the age of 12, and it wasn't until I was 23 years old that I really started facing the struggle head on. Until then, I'd kind of accepted that I was just bound to spend hours staring at a blank piece of paper or a blank canvas in Photoshop, and some nights I just wouldn't produce any results. My turning point came when a friend of mine showed me her sketchbooks from high school, and they were so different from my own. Where my pages were timid and sparse, many of which were abandoned after just a few marks, hers were bold, confident, and filled. They were full of experiments, they pushed her boundaries, and not once did they ever give an impression of fear. She drew and wrote whatever was on her mind, and not once did she even consider whether they'd come out well. It's not like all the drawings were good. There were plenty of mistakes and blunders throughout the pages, but the point is that it never mattered. These sketchbooks weren't there to represent her to the world. They existed only for her. It was those sketchbooks that made me realize that more than anything, I was a coward. A coward who only cared about how his drawings would make him look to others, whose motivation for drawing was more focused on the idea of being an artist. It was a shallow pursuit, and I only cared about being impressive. Keep in mind that none of this is a crime. In fact, I'm sure many of you will relate to that sentiment. Lots of people see concept artists on the internet and just fantasize about drinking in the attention that they must be receiving. It's the allure of celebrity, and flashy and dazzling as it may be, it isn't tangible, it's not a real thing that we can work towards. It just leads us down a path of frustration, of unfair comparisons, and of anguish. In that despair, we forget why we wanted to draw in the first place. We forget about the stories we wanted to tell, the characters we wanted to bring to life, and the worlds we wanted to create. And all we have left is that empty need to be liked. It's a normal, human thing. And to be human is to be able to change. So I gave myself a task so that I too could change and approach my art a little more as my friend did. I took a sketchbook and a ballpoint pen and I promised myself that I would fill 2 pages of it in ink every single night before going to sleep. The goal was not to create wonderful drawings or drawings of anything in particular. I just had to fill the pages with something and really fill them. A single drawing isn't enough. The page had to be packed. If anything crossed my mind, even slightly, before I had the chance to reject the idea, I set to drawing it because the page had to be full. There is nothing more gratifying than having a drawing come out well. To have that one page you can show off, perfect and unmarred. And unfortunately for me, this strategy basically made such a thing impossible. If by some fluke a drawing came out well, having to add another to the same page basically guaranteed that I'd ruin it. So if the page was destined to be ruined no matter what, then all that fear suddenly felt kind of, well, stupid. It didn't stop me from being afraid, but it did help me to at least complete my task. Every night, I wouldn't go to sleep unless the pages were full. And the more I filled up that sketchbook, night after night, the more I felt the joy of actually drawing return to me. While I wasn't embarrassed to show the sketchbook to people, that wasn't its purpose. So for the most part, I kept it to myself. The drawings were for me, and before too long, My relationship with drawing as a whole had taken a turn. Nowadays, some 8 years later, while I still do feel some of that fear in the back of my head, I find it a lot easier to just jump in and draw. It's also given me the confidence and a certain amount of comfort with the idea of just drawing things poorly that has really helped me pursue my craft more fully without getting caught up in my own ego. That doesn't mean my ego doesn't still get in the way, it's just easier to shove it down for a bit. More recently, some other things I've done that have helped include drawing where other people can see. Live streaming on Twitch and drawing with others in programs like Magma Studio hits the fear of failing to draw well against the fear of people watching me freeze up. But I suspect that might be a bit more daunting for people, and a younger me may not have handled it quite as well. But that's okay. We grow in baby steps. Before I call this video done, here's a peek at a few pages of the sketchbook in question, because of course I can't talk about it without showing at least a little bit. Initially, I leaned a little bit too much on drawing bigger, full page drawings, but technically, I still filled them in with writing as well. After that first day, I started packing them with many smaller drawings, exploring whatever crossed my mind. As you can clearly see, many of those drawings were very chicken scratchy and erratic, largely because I didn't know how to draw the things that I was trying to draw or how to approach any of it. I just tried. At this point, I had been drawing for a while, though I never really took it all that seriously, so my fundamentals were quite poor. But that's totally fine. The point of this exercise wasn't to draw well, it was just to get things onto that blank page. So even if you have no idea how to approach drawing the idea that came across your mind, take a swing at it anyway. Even if it just ends up being a bunch of scribbles, at least you'll be ruining that blank page. What's most important is that I put ink to paper and I drew something. And I hope you will too.